right, welcome back to Getting Past the Premium, everybody. We've got a great episode today with Ashley Englund. And Ashley is a tax and consulting director with Lutz. And today it's going to be a fun conversation around why is the CPA the most trusted advisor in the eyes of the client? And we talk about a lot of things around that. So it's a great episode and hope you enjoy.
Welcome to the Getting Past the Premium podcast, where we focus on breaking down risk management problems bit by bit until we find a solution. If you would like to discuss anything you hear on GPP with us, please reach out using the links in the description. Enjoy today's episode.
All right, thanks for coming on. Yeah, we'll see you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, we were, it was called the show before the show, but talking about, in our side of the industry, we do a lot of surveys, research on who, clients trust as advisors. It always boggles my mind that it's the CPA every single time. No.
Because you're not a CPA.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, that is true. But, so loved your perspective. What we started talking about before was just, why do you feel like that is? Why do clients kind of view the CPA in such a trusted manner,
Right. I think it all goes back to whether it's risk management or it's finances or it's banking or it's accounting. We are in the relationship business, even though it's centered around people's transactions and life events. So when you're in that type of situation where you're trying to build a relationship with people, I think one of the advantages we have as CPAs and advisors is people have to open up to us about their finances and about things that are going on in their day-to-day life, changes that they have already encountered or things that they're thinking about in the future. And they have to open up that book to us pretty quickly so that we truly can help them. I found in my experience that if someone's going to trust you with their finances, that's a really intimate piece of most people's lives. So at that point in time, you've already got a pretty strong foundation in your relationship with them. Which I think causes them to use you as a sounding board or come to you more frequently when they just need to bounce a couple ideas about a harebrained idea that they have they want to pursue or a really serious life decision. And I think that probably is, for me, what has made the job the most rewarding. It's also a good spot for us as CPAs to be that first stop when they have a question and allows us to connect with other advisors and redirect those people to a risk management or someone in the finance industry that we know can help them pull the pieces together. So I think it's one that they have to open up their personal lives to us so that we can help them from the get-go. But it's the secondary piece of that is probably that we have inherently a wide network of other advisors that we work with to serve them. So it allows us to be someone that can point them in the right direction for what their full purpose needs are.
Totally. Yeah, you can't hide very much when you're getting everybody's finances, right?
No, you pretty much see it all.
Yeah.
And I do think they are almost forced, but most people willingly do it, but almost forced to get a comfort level with you right off of the bat because you need to know what's going on. And they can't really omit those details if they want the product that you're going to give them to be the best that you can make it. Yeah. So
and nobody wants to deal with the IRS. So.
Correct. Everybody has a panic attack when that little letter comes. So we just try to slow that down.
So is it more, do you think, do you feel like your industry does anything special when someone calls you or knocks on the door and tries to engage you for services, like versus a different industry, right? Because we talk about, we were talking about Lisa, the loan lady that we had on, right? Mm-hmm. Super transactional, and to get a mortgage, you typically need to pull tax returns and da-da-da-da-da. So other professionals are getting access to the same info.
True.
But is it the different lens? Is it your guys' process or what you say or how you position yourself up front that sets the tone differently?
I think a lot of it is the breadth of service that we can provide our clients. So in Lisa's situation, she's getting that information so she can help with typically one transaction, and once that transaction's complete, her service to that client is complete until they need that transaction again, or they send
Could be
somebody
10
else.
years, yeah.
Correct. Whereas for us, we are very typically engaged in an ongoing service. So we're starting with the foundational relationship, but as that person's life develops, or as that company develops and tries to expand, you are with them throughout that whole entire process. So for me, the best relationships I have are the ones where it's a small to medium sized business and they are looking at either transitioning or they're looking at growing or expanding, and you're in the midst of it with them because they need somebody that's got typically knowledge that is not their area of expertise. They want to be engaged to run the business that they're good at running. So they're looking at you as that advisor that's already got a foundation, because you have to see that information, but you're looking at it continuously with them and on an ongoing basis. So I think that comes into play more so on the client base, where we're not as heavily in a one transaction situation. So yeah, we have clients that we do a tax return for and you only do it once a year. But the clients who I would say we're really trusted advisors for, and more than just a tax preparer or more than just a financial statement preparation, are the ones that you're having different touches with throughout the year as their business is operating, and you're doing so much more for them than just putting numbers on a form. You're really helping them make educated decisions, and your relationship with them is growing as their business is growing and pivoting in different directions as well.
So are there strategies you use to put yourself in that position? Is it like you said, some businesses are just one tax return a year, you know? Some other businesses you're having touch points with throughout the year. I mean, are there things that you're doing that are putting yourself in the position to have the multiple touch points a year and be that sounding board?
Yeah. How do you take a client from transactional to trusted advisor, like you said?
Yeah, great question. I think a lot of that goes into first trying to drill into like, what does the client really want from you? Because you're going to get a client that comes in one time a year and they say, hey, internally, I've already got all these bases covered. I feel comfortable with how our operations are. We're running as efficiently as we possibly can. I just need you to do this return. Okay, well, we can be that. But where our value add really comes is from the people that aren't as comfortable, want some education, want to understand what's going on in their business. For me, it comes from how can I operationally help this business perform better? So how can I look beyond the numbers that are on the tax return and say, are you operating in what's level or benchmark for your industry? If not, where are you off? Or you're looking at making a change and offering a different service line. Have you thought about these 3 things, and are they going to be profitable for you? If not in the first year, how long is it going to take? Is this worth the risk? For me, I think where we become the trusted advisor is when we dig in and we ask questions and ask people to think about their business and the operations of it, rather than just what's the bottom line profit when I get to the end of the year. Because then they know that you care, and then you're truly a part of the team at that point. You're not just some outside advisor that only knows the year-end numbers. You are dug into, how does this business make money? Is it a construction company that's got to make money because it's meeting its margins? Is it a service company that's got to make money because we can control costs through our efficiencies and the people that we're hiring to do that work? You know, once you've dug in there, they don't view you as somebody from the outside that's coming in trying to give them one-off advice. You're a part of their team.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So I'm not going to discount that at all, but let me wrap that up with or summarize that as a discovery process. Is that fair? By like diving in and asking questions to a business owner. How do you get them to that point? Like, what's your process for, Elliot owns a small business, rings up Lutz or you, and hey, can you help me out with my tax return? How do you take it from that to getting to the discovery phase that you were describing?
Right. I think it's all about the questions that you ask and having an open dialogue. I mean, most people are not going to naturally come into your office and spill their guts about what their future plans are.
Yeah.
So it's saying, okay, Elliot, we've prepared your 2021 business return. These are a couple of things that I noticed from it. Have you thought about, or tell me what's going on in this area and why your cost is up from where it was at last year. It's starting the conversation with a few questions that gets them to open that gate.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the secondary piece of that is having an open and honest conversation that says, what can I be doing for you? Or what are areas that you're struggling with right now? I may not be able to fix them for you, but if, say, we got a business that's worried because they're not sure they can meet XYZ obligations, or they're worried about, do they have enough coverage if they have a work comp claim? You know, like, we can be that person that then helps direct them in the right direction. And I typically try to start that with a few questions that open up the door for that and really look to them to say, I can help you in whatever ways you want me to, but you are going to have to give me some feedback that says, you know, what are your pain points right now? Because I may not be the person to fix them, but we at least have to have the dialogue about it. Otherwise, you're not going to feel like you're getting that trusted advisor service, and we're not going to be able to build this relationship any further than just a transactional one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's super applicable too, because, you know, you could just process that tax return and transactional, send them the bill, and see you later.
We've met our IRS requirements at that point. You know, box is checked.
But you're making the conscious decision to try to open up more of a strategic advisory relationship, and I think that's just directly applicable to the insurance risk management industry, where we could just sell an insurance policy.
Correct.
A lot of people do that, and that transaction needs to happen. But if you want to become more of that advisor, it's being intentional about opening up that relationship. And so I think maybe the key there is just understanding what you want to be for that client, what type of a model you want to drive, and then set up your process to manage through that. Would that be?
I would agree.
Summarizing that, I guess.
And I think I think the word that you used best in there is intentional. I mean, you're making a concerted effort, and then you wait for the feedback from that client that says, like, yes, this is what I need from you, or no, it's not, but what about this?
Yeah, not every client's going to need a deep advisory relationship, as you mentioned earlier.
Correct. So then you modify your approach.
Do you consider any of what we just talked about sales?
I personally think that is how I go about selling.
Yeah.
That's how I show people that I care and that I'm going to be with them.
Yeah.
And make them want to be with me in the long run so that I can help them make those decisions. I think that's a longer drawn out process than many quote unquote salespeople like to go through.
Exactly.
But I think it has longer term benefits because that relationship is solid. And I do think it causes people to feel comfortable enough, like to go back to the finance comment earlier and what people are comfortable with. You've built a really strong relationship with somebody. The sales kind of take care of themselves because they're willing to send a close friend to get the same kind of assistance.
Ding, ding, ding. Can you put like an asterisk by that part, Big Al, in the video? Because it's spot on. You know, because that is sales.
It is sales.
But it may not be sales in the traditional sense of the word, where everybody has the stigma around the used car salesman or whatever.
Is it the traditional sense? I mean, that's like...
I guess I'm just... when people view sales as the four-letter word kind of thing, like that's what I was getting at. Well,
my point is, it's like, this is the way that sales should be done. But it's not in certain industries, and we all know the ones. And we would openly put risk management in that same boat.
Yep.
But like, why? Because what you're doing is a form of sales, but I don't feel like that's on the front of your brain.
Right.
And
it's not.
Exactly. I mean, and you can tell that that's why I asked the question.
Right.
It's completely different when you're in the risk management space.
Right.
It is a lot about deals and sales and
You have a natural product that you're putting in front of somebody.
Well, if you have a product that maybe doesn't, ours is almost a perpetual product. You know, unless they're unhappy with our services or don't need them anymore or want to go in a different direction, you know, ours is not a one-time product sale.
Yeah.
Which I think forces that sales process to be different. You know, like I don't feel the need to put a hard press on selling something, because if I don't hard press it now and I still build that relationship, 2 years from now, the odds of me being able to get that work and provide the benefit and them actually understand that they're getting a benefit from it is better than me hard pressing and them not understanding what this process looks like today.
So do you have, like, a little bit off of that trade, do you have, like, sales goals column? Like, do you have to bring on certain numbers of new clients in a given year and stuff?
Yeah, we all have different levels of goals depending on what our roles are and what our strengths are. I mean, we have people within the firm that are much more strategically pointed in that direction, but all of us being in a business where our product or how we make money is based on what we sell and how efficiently we can provide it. I mean, we all have those goals, especially as you get a little bit deeper into the relationship side of things and less in the preparation compliance area. So we all have annual goals on that.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
And I would say we all in general approach it very differently.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
Well, it's just you don't think of a CPA or, you know, what I have as a salesperson, like with a goal.
Right.
You know, and I think that's, again, a different, it's different in our side of the industry, right?
It is. I mean, when you think about a CPA, you think about a CPA in their office in front of a computer crunching
with their
numbers.
10 key, not talking to anybody.
And it just
goes,
so it's like
all day.
They're non-threatening though.
Right.
Like you have that vision, or people have that vision, and it's like, well, they're not scary.
Right.
And the insurance guy's banging on their door.
Yep.
And they're like, oh my God, they got to hide from them in their own office.
Yeah.
Right.
And the CPA, you got to go find and flip on the light switch.
Right. Right. That's fair.
And so,
that's the perception.
right, which is crazy.
It really is when you think about it. Because we're talking about the difference between or your services are an ongoing basis. Insurance is too. We talk about that a lot. Where, you know, like you think about Lisa, we were talking earlier, does mortgages. You might buy a mortgage need a new mortgage once every 10 years. But she does a phenomenal job of developing that relationship that entire time.
Right.
And we're sitting there going, people pay us every single year. And our industry as a whole is horrible about building relationships.
Yeah.
Well, and
terrible.
you could rent your entire life too and never need a mortgage.
Right.
But
true. Yeah.
you know, like literally people, just like processing tax returns, you have to do it every year.
Yep.
I suppose you don't, but there's penalties if you don't.
Ask Wesley
We won't
Snipes
even
about
go
that.
down that rabbit hole.
Right? So, it was Nicolas Cage.
What was that? It was? Yeah. Yeah, and you ask any number of people that maybe would disagree with you on that.
But, you know, if you're running a business, like, you got to have work comp too. It's just treated so darn different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is humanizing the service or the product that you have, and making it not be about the work comp insurance policy and making it not be about the tax return, but making it be about what are your goals and what can I do or what can Elliot do that accelerates those goals and your ability to achieve them. And I think for a lot of people, those questions and you truly wanting to know, people know if you want to know the answer or you're just asking because it's a part of your sales process.
Yeah.
Is that like, are you intentional around that?
Yes.
Because we preach it as being like genuinely curious.
Correct.
And
if you're not genuinely curious, like I said, people are going to know.
Yeah.
And if it's something, I'm fortunate to be surrounded by a team of people that have expertise that is not the same as my own. So if it's a client or somebody that's a potential client that I have no expertise in, I'm not suited to serve them, but two, I probably don't have that genuine curiosity that you're talking about because it's not something I'm knowledgeable enough in to ask those questions and really deep dive like we talked about. So I'm fortunate enough to be surrounded by enough qualified people at that point in time. I can say, hey, I just need to walk you down the hallway and I need to introduce you to XYZ because they have background in what you're talking about. They can be genuinely curious and they can develop a relationship with you.
But if you're just doing the tax return, you may never even find that out.
Correct.
So when you do, and you're like, oh shoot, this is outside of my expertise, or I don't have any knowledge in this industry or something, like, is that also intentional, or have you carved that out on your own around, like, are you working with certain types of businesses because you want to, or you're not knowledgeable about some because you've made an effort to not care, or like, how do you?
I think most of us that get into relationship type roles, or most of us that get into accounting, we're learners by nature. So we like to dig into new things that we don't know about, and we like to learn things. So I would say that is a change in my professional career that I've made over time and had to force myself to realize I can't be an expert in all areas, even though I find them interesting. Right? If you came to me and said, I want to start this business and I've got no idea about it, my first inclination is to spend 3 hours reading about it so that you and I can have a good conversation. I have just found with years of experience and being surrounded by other people with different strengths than me, that's not the best way for us necessarily to serve our client base. And I'm better off if I can be educated in 5 or 6 areas and know those really well, to let someone else be educated in the areas that they're in. Because as we've been talking about building that relationship, questions and curiosity can take you so far, and the fake it till you make it strategy can carry you a ways. But eventually you got to know. And if you truly want to have a long-standing relationship with somebody, you've got to be committed to that on your end. And for me, that was just probably more so a professional career realization that I couldn't know all the facts about everything. So my gut reaction is to jump in, and I have to harness that sometimes, knowing that there's a lot of other people surrounding me that can take care of them.
Well, it's important to note, we were just having this conversation this morning, that you can't be everything to everybody.
Correct.
As much as you'd like to be and as much as you want to answer the question.
Correct.
But if you define your lane and you stick to your lane, you're going to be able to provide that much more value. You're going to be able to serve customers you enjoy.
Correct.
You're going to know what you're talking about. But
you don't want to diminish the value that you provide to your existing clients just because you want to be the end-all be-all for a potential new client.
And it's hard to say no.
How do you do that in a small community? I mean, because we run up against it all the time, right?
Yeah,
where
that's a good question.
like you and I are having another target market conversation, and then it's like, well, that works in the big cities where you.
But what happens when Jim Bob comes down the street and needs me to do this?
We're in a town of 15,000 people, and you got to be everything to everybody, or you don't have any clients. Is the mentality? How do you stay in your lane?
It's not easy. I don't think it's easy for anybody, especially in a smaller community, because you naturally want to please everybody that thinks they need your services. I personally have found that the more open I can be about, there's
who you can help and
how you can help them.
And people appreciate honesty about it.
And I think that's part of the ability to build a relationship, because, okay, Elliot, you come to me and I'm not an expert in my area. If I can sit down and honestly tell you, like, Elliot, I cannot provide you enough value for the service that I would provide you, typically most people are going to have more respect for that answer than if I try to learn a fraction of the information that I need to help you and can't escalate and push you forward going forward, because your respect factor for me is probably not going to be very good after a subpar experience.
There's an end of the road to that strategy at some point.
Correct.
Like,
eventually you get called on your bluff, and it's not good for either side of the equation. So I just try to be as honest and open up front as I can. And like I said, I'm fortunate enough to be surrounded by a pretty large team of people that typically can support or back up those issues if we need to, but not everybody's in that situation where they've got such a big support group.
Well, I think it's important too of understanding the long-term aspect of it. You know, it's not about the quick buck.
Correct.
And if you build it right, you know where your lane is, you know where to stay, you've learned it, you've spent the time. Because I don't care who you are in any of our type or any of our industries in the ancillary industry surrounding like a business or whatnot. It just takes time. Like you can do all the studying you want, but I would assume in your world it's saying like I can learn the tax code and what I need to do, but it's different for that business than it is for that business, and even if they're the same industry.
Yep.
And because it's dependent upon the people involved and all of those things, it just takes time to learn it. And so I think it's just super important to know like what do I enjoy doing, who do I enjoy working with, who can I work with effectively, and let me build. Either if it's your knowledge, build a solution, build whatever it is, a process that's going to provide value to that group of people, and then stick with that group of people.
Well, and if you stick with that group of people and you're intentional about it from the get-go, as they grow, you grow.
Yeah.
So we want to relate that back to sales and not focusing on the quick buck. You provide one quality service or outcome for somebody, and as they grow, your ability to provide additional services and help them on one-off projects just gets larger as they go. So if you can start with the foundation and you're doing it for the right purpose, you win as your client wins.
Well, and guess what? They all hang out together.
Yeah.
And you align yourself with like-minded people. The other thing that I commonly see is like nobody likes to hang out with people who are like people. Let me phrase it the other way. People like to hang out with like, other people who are aspirational to them.
Correct.
So it's like you're going to hang out with somebody who's got a larger business than you because you want to learn from them and you want to be like them across those circles. And when you're doing that for them and get to that point, the odds of you being able to elevate yourself within that group and your referability and continues to go through the roof.
Right. I think one of the things that's helped me, being a younger advisor in a business where I work with a number of business owners that are older than I am, is while I'm trying to help them, trying to use the information that they have, or as I'm asking a pointed question about their business and they're telling me about it, that's knowledge for me as a professional to hold on to that's going to make me better able to serve the next client and the next client. So I really view if you can take the time to slow down, our business is really one that you're trying to propel your clients to grow, but as a professional in the services you can provide, if you just will stop and listen on occasion, the information that you can get so that you can turn around and cycle that through is monumental. Yeah. And I've been fortunate that as I transitioned into Hastings in the office there, I had a few clients right off the gate that were, I probably learned more from them than they ever learned from me, and holding on to that and knowing that I think has probably made this whole process of how you go about client service a lot easier for me. Yeah.
Well, just that listening, it's a skill in and of itself that you have to cultivate. You have to listen, and the other part of that is to become that trusted advisor is you have to be okay with the fact that you're not going to know the answer to everything, and admitting that, which is hard for all of us because just like we said, we want to be the end all be all. We want to be able to fix everybody's problems. If you can just stop and listen to what their question or their concern is, you may not have the perfect answer at that point in time. But can you go find a solution and an answer for them later and come back to them with it? Yeah, and you probably win brownie points, not only because you brought the solution back, but because you were upfront about it and didn't just throw something out there off the cuff. I think that builds more trust. Again, like we were talking earlier, people respect you more when you can do that. Because I don't care, they know when you're bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean,
And if
people
not, you're
pick
going to
up
get
on
caught in it later.
Yeah. You know, they can tell. And I think, though, if you can just back up and say, hey, I'm not entirely sure on that, but I've got a team or I know where to go to find that answer. Like, hey, I'll get back to you tomorrow or whatever it is. I think it provides a ton of value there. And that listening skill is so important. Everything that you were mentioning, we joke around about it, that the awkward silences, you know, when you ask a question, like, we get a lot of new people that we train and stuff that, you know, they want to jump in and, you know, it's like you're kicking them under the table. Like, just shut up for 2 seconds, you know, and you'll get gold, because at the end of every awkward silence is usually what really matters to the client, you know, which you got to let them, you got to listen, you got to stop talking. Right. And it's key. So, well, I think that's probably a good spot to wrap up. We're getting the signal from Big Al and the nod. That was good, though. It goes by fast, doesn't it?
Yeah. That was great stuff. Appreciate you coming in.
Yeah. Thanks, Ash.
Thank you for tuning in to Getting Past the Premium. We are excited to continue breaking down barriers and finding solutions together. If you would like to reach out regarding anything you heard in today's episode, find links and contact info in the description. Until next time, have a great day, and let's continue getting past the premium.